Welcome, everyone. It is great to be here for our Facebook Live today. So we're just going to wait a few minutes while we get some people signed up. And while we are waiting for people, I just want to tell you some of my thoughts about fall, because fall is one of my favorite times of the year. When I was younger, I loved the beginning of school. I love the color, the changing leaves, the cozy sweaters, hot chocolate, cozying up with a quilt. All of that stuff is, for me, is such a special time of the year. And pumpkins, and let's not forget Halloween and Thanksgiving as well. So lots of great things about fall. And so hopefully what we will give for you today is just some inspiration on things that you can make for decorating your home, for wearing, anything to do with about fall. So I'm excited to be here. All right, and so we have, I'm not even sure how this works, but I know what we have is Amy is in the background, so she can answer any questions. So if you have questions about anything, you have comments, then feel free to put them into the chat, and Amy will make sure that I get a chance to answer them for you. Now, in the past, when I've done a Facebook Live, I've usually come on and I've had a very specific topic to chat about. It could be a specific sewing machine or embroidery machine, or a different technique. And today, what I'm going to, as I mentioned, going to talk about is inspiration for fall. So these are things that you can make for anything. And I'm using a variety of machines. So I will be using the PFAFF Creative Icon 2 for machine embroidery. I did a couple of things in sewing, or they'll be sewing to finish off some of the projects, but the majority of what I have is for machine embroidery. And I will also be talking about the digital cutter, which you can't really see there, but I have it behind me here, which is the Singer Momento, the 24-inch digital cutter. So I will be talking about some of the things that you can, prep for fall with the cutter. And one of the things I would be very remiss if I did not mention, and that is Creativate. Now, some of you may know it by its old name, which was my Sewnet, and is now called Creativate. And a lot of people equate that with a product, but technically Creativate is a brand. And in that brand, you have things like the crafting software, you have the quilting software, the machine embroidery software. There is the design catalog, which is online, which is a catalog of designs for both the digital cutters and for embroidery. And then you also have the Vault, which is an online storage. But what I think is really most important about the Creativate brand is the connectivity that ties all of this stuff together. So it allows me to communicate with my laptop, with the Wi-Fi enabled embroidery machines, and we have a couple new ones that are just out on the PFAFF line at this point. So we have a lot of great stuff. And I have to share this story with you. So earlier this week, I was in a meeting way on the other side of town, and I had a little bit of downtime. So I thought, you know what, I'll get my laptop out and I'm going to start to look at some designs in the design catalog that I could put together to make some samples for today. So as I found a design, then I just was able to send it to my software, my embroidery software on the computer. And I accidentally hit, because I have my computer at home and I have my laptop that was with me, and I accidentally hit computer. And I was like, oh yeah, I meant to send it to my laptop. So of course, when I got home, because everything was connected to the Creativate network, guess what? Those images were sitting on my computer. So the only thing that I need to figure out now is, how can I send those designs to my embroidery machine? That's the easy part. But how can I have someone at home change the thread for me so that when I get home, those designs are already done? That would be amazing. So anyways, but so again, for those people that have just joined us, welcome. And we are going to get started talking about some inspirations for fall. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you is, you can see behind me on my design wall that I have spent a little bit of time cutting out some decor. So they are some fall leaves. I found those leaves in the design catalog. And once I knew that that's what I wanted, then I saved them or I sent them into the crafting software where I was able to make some changes and create files that I wanted to download or to cut. So let me just get my iPad. I'm going to show you. Normally when I work with the Creativate, the crafting software, I will use my laptop, but it's being tied up right now for the call. And so I'm going to get the iPad and show you what I mean. Now, what I like is that that will sit in, there is a slot in the top of the cutter. So that just sits up there nice and easy. All right, so here we go. All right, like this. All right, got that all lined up. Let me just see if we can zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, so earlier I designed this just so that you could, because I'm going to do a little demo of cutting. Now, what's really nice about this crafting software is that whoops, just a sec here, let me get back. Whoops, I just there we go. Okay, so what I really like about this is that, so this leaf and this leaf both came from the design catalog. When I brought them in, they were much smaller than that. The software allows me to make it whatever size that I want. And because the Momento is a 24-inch digital cutter, guess what? I can actually cut, if I can find a piece of paper large enough, I could cut a 24-inch leaf. Okay. For today, just for the sake of simplicity, I am using a 12 by 12 mat. I'll show you the mats in a second. So these two things came from the design catalog and I just enlarged them. This is a little place card, which I have simply used a shape. So there is a spot, one of the icons on the side here, which will allow me to insert a shape. There's many different shapes in there. I can insert a line as well, which is this line right across the center, which is going to be a scoring line. You'll see that. And then with the text option, I have put my name in there. Down here, I'm just creating a little letter with a background. So again, this background part here is a shape. And then this is just a letter. There are many fonts in the software, so I have a choice to do whatever I'd like. Now, what is really nice about the software as well, the crafting software, is that it allows me to change any of the lines around. So these are technically like an SVG. They have a different extension on them, but they're technically like an SVG file. But if so the default is a cut file, which means that I'm going to put it in the cutter and it's going to cut. But the Momento also has the ability to do engraving and debossing or scoring and cutting and using pens. So you can change the path of any of them, which is really fun. Okay, so now that this file is like so, I'm going to select the output button, which is up here on the top, which is the cutter. And it just takes a little minute. So it is connected to my machine and it says send to the machine. So I just select that. It asks me what mat do I want to use. And again, for simplicity today, I'm using the 12 by 12 just because of the space, but I can use the 12 by 24 or 24 by 12, or I can use the large one, 24 by 24. All right, now what I need to do is I need to tell it what I am cutting. And if I use the little drop-down menu, I have fabric. So if you are an applicator and you do a lot of machine embroidery applique, guess what? You will be able to cut fabric, whether you want to have a fusible web on the back of it or whether you do not. And I have a couple of samples I will show you. I can cut vinyl. So I can cut heat transfer vinyl, permanent vinyl, temporary vinyl, whatever kind of vinyl I want. There's another category. And then there's paper. Because I'm just cutting paper, again, just for the ease of cutting it, I now have a list of all the different types of paper. Now, why is this important? Well, if you put in the type of product that you are cutting, the Momento will tell you what blade to put in, and it's going to tell you what it's going to give you the pressure and the force. I'm cutting a light cardstock, so I will select that and then continue. So now what it does is it's going to bring me to the basic cutting page. What it's trying to do is it's going to push everything into the top left-hand corner, which is what that button which is selected. Or I could rearrange to reduce the waste. I'm saying do not rearrange because I have those images in a specific spot. I don't want it to rearrange. And you'll notice that there's 4 batches over here on the left-hand side. The first one is the scoring tool and the pen. The second one is all of those shapes. The third one is a T, and the last one is the center part of the leaf. And I better just put do not arrange on all of them. There we go. Okay. The reason that it's giving me those three pages as opposed to one is because of the coloring. So if you wanted everything to cut on one page, you would make everything the same color. But because we're cutting on different pages, that's what we're going to, the way that it's going to work. All right. So now we're going to select next. And it's going to tell me to load my mat. And you're not going to see this because I'm going to do it behind the camera. But I'm going to take the protective cover off. And I'm putting the paper onto the mat like so. All right. And then the first thing that we need to do is we have to load the mat into the Memento. So the easiest way to do that, there is a little lever in the back, which is going to raise all of the pinch press bars. So I'm going to get my paper in, lower that, and then I can just select load the mat. So it's kind of doing its little calibration thing right there. All right, and then we're going to come back here. And what it's telling me now is to insert the marker into the left side. So let's just go back here. So I have two holders here. So I'm going to put the marker into the left side, snap it in place. And then it is telling me to put the debossing tool into the right holder. I put that in, snap it into place. Okay, like so. And then I will select continue. And guess what? It's going to do both actions. So the first thing that it's going to do there is it is going to be writing my name. And then once it's finished writing my name, then the second thing that it's going to do is it will do a deboss. So that is very cool. And it is, it's a lot of fun. And you just put the things in order that you want. If you want to put on a new piece of paper or whatnot, I'm just going to cut this one piece and then take it out because I have lots of other things to show you. But I just wanted to share with you that how easy it is because it will tell you all the tools that you need to put in there. And if you're cutting fabric, it's exactly the same. You can just put your fabric onto the fabric mat and it's going to be give you the same. All right, so now it's going to move to the debossing. So while it is finishing cutting or doing its job, I just want to share with you, and I'm just going to come back to me. So this is the 12 by 24 inch mat. Oh, it's actually finished. I better go back and see what it's asking me to do. Okay, it's asking me now we're going to say next because this is what I want it to do. And it's going to ask me to put the blade in this time. So I can take out the pen, take that out, put the blade in, and now we're going to just let it cut. And we just continue. So now it's going to cut. All right, come back to me. So here is the 12 by 24 inch mat. So what's nice about this is it can go in this orientation in the cutter or it can go in this orientation in the cutter. So it's very, very forgiving. So very easily, let me just get this started here. Very easily, I could put two pieces of the 12 by 12 cardstock that I have. So if I had a whole bunch of leaves to cut at one time, it'd be easy to do. All right, so that is the light grip mat. The one that I'm using is actually the standard grip. We also have a strong grip. And we have fabric. So that's fabric is the red one. So this is a very important one. I use the fabric ones a lot. And just so you can see how big. This is the 24 by 24 inch mat. So it is very, very large. And mine is quite dirty in case you're having a close look at it. But all of them have that protective cover on the top of them because you don't want to get the lint on them and so on. Again, I'm not going to go into details about how to keep track of the mats and so on, but everything is, yeah, I mean, it's great. All right, so this is almost finished cutting. And then we're going to take it off so that we can have a look at it. While we're waiting for that to happen, let me just show you a couple of fabric samples of what you can do here. So this is a sample of a design that started off as a clip art, because we often get asked that question, like, well, how do I get my designs into the crafting software so I can cut them? So this started off as a clip art that I brought into the machine embroidery software into the essentials level and used the express design tool in order to create these images, which could then be cut on the Memento. So if the design or the image that you're starting with is simple, that is something that you can do. Here is another example that has been cut from fabric. These have nothing to do with fall. It's just kind of to let you know that you can cut fabric with that, with the Memento. So this one here is lettering that was created again from the machine embroidery software, and it's an applique letter in there. And then I was able to cut the letters reverse, obviously, and then to stitch them out. So it works really, really well. And again, like everything else in this world, you really need to experiment and see what's going on. All right, I'm just going to eject that mat and bring it back over here. So the mat, so everything has been cut, and you can see my name has been printed out. So I'm going to just pull this apart. Sorry, it's a little hard to show you on the camera there. Pull that off. And sometimes it gets just a little bit stuck like so. So this is the place card, and there's the scoring line right across the center. So that makes it super easy to just fold. And now I have that little tent with my name on it. So that's super easy. Here is a couple of the shapes. Again, just like that, they come off the mat and they're ready to go. Now this last leaf that I have is got a lot of little bits and pieces in it. So we're just going to try to take it off really quickly because I need to get moving on to some of the other stuff. And there we go. All right. So anyway, but that leaf will look like, once it gets pulled off of the paper, that leaf looks like this, which are the same ones that are on the back. So lots of stuff that you can do with that. Okay. And we'll just quickly take that off and put the protective cover back on. And I just want to share one other thing. So when I, back, I guess it was Easter time, I had seen one of the projects online, and it was a little Easter basket. And I thought, that's a really cool basket. I could use that for Halloween. So I took the same basket and I just removed the little label that was here. And I found an image for Halloween, put that on, cut out the little handle, and filled it up with candy. So when I chose this, I had actually picked up the metallic markers when I really should have used the dual tip markers. And so I did it again, and this is what it looks like. So it's a lot easier to read with the thinner marker. So be careful. If you are doing the pens, just be careful. And the dual tip multi-pack is probably the best one to get. Okay. All right. So now let's have a look at some of the other things. Oh, and I wanted to show you this before I get started. What is important to know about that digital cutter and your embroidery machine? So I'm just cleaning some of this stuff up because it's going to fall. All right. So this is an example. Let's start with this one here. So this is an example of a ladybug that was done with a digital cutter cut from paper. Okay, so you've got the little black dots and everything. So this is from cardstock. This is the same image, but this is all done with thread. if you can see that, but that is all done with thread. And this image is done with fabric. So these are fabric appliques with a satin stitch all the way around. And then this is just what the outline of that ladybug looks like. So this is one of the things that you're able to do in the Creativate software is you're able to take those files and convert them from one format to another so that they can be used in multiple locations, which is great, or multiple tools. So if you wanted to create a whole party effect, you could have name tags, aprons, the whole bit, and everything would match. Okay, let's now start with some of the samples. So one of the things that I like to do with things is I like to look at, you know, we have two options. One of them is I can create something brand new, or I can use a ready-made item. So I'm just making some room here. Okay, so this is a placemat that I picked up at the dollar store. It's actually like plastic. I'm not even sure what the material would be called, but it is plastic. I picked one of the Maxi Art stitches in the Creative Icon and just stitched it out. Now I did use a water-soluble stabilizer on the back, which is still there because I wasn't sure how the heck this was actually going to work. So this was done in sewing mode and I wasn't sure, I mean, it's plastic, so it shouldn't really go anywhere, but I just put a stabilizer on the back, which I have just left. So again, taking something simple from the dollar store, you can dress it up just by putting a line of stitching on it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really easy. All right, now I want to share with you this piece, which is the piece that was on the advertising for today. So this is a table runner that I made a while back. And let me just get that so you can see one of the motifs complete. Okay, so here is one of the motifs. Now, one of the things that I like to do, because I could go online and I could buy designs and I could put them in, but then my projects would look like everybody else's. So I like to go in to the embroidery, the Creativate embroidery software, and to make up things myself. So this is simply one of the 245 built-in fonts. I selected it. There are, I'm not sure how many there are, but there's about 30 different, we call them envelope styles, I believe they are. So this here is kind of in a little bit of a semicircle. And what's really nice about this is it has a little bit of a shine to it. This is a font that has 2 different colors of thread in it. So it was super, super easy to create. And if we zoom in, because this is a fill pattern, I don't know how close I can zoom in if you can see that, but on the letters, there is actually a leaf pattern. So not only can I change, or not only can I pick the letters, the font, not only can I change the envelope style, but I can change the fill pattern as well. So it was on a little bit of an arc. I mirrored that, made sure that they joined together. I used the endless tool in the software, in the embroidery software, to make sure that they were evenly spaced. And then it was done in 3 hoopings. Absolutely simple. It took no time at all. And this is something that can be done in the essentials level of the machine embroidery software and really is easy to make.
Elaine?
Yes.
Somebody is wondering if you remember what the name of that font is that you used.
Oh my gosh. You know what? And it's funny because I just used it the other day in another one. You know, off the top of my head, I do not remember. I could try to find out, but it is one of the few, it is one of the fill patterns and it does have a gradient in it. And gosh, I don't remember the name though, but it is a beautiful font. It's one of my favorite fonts. Love it. I'll try to remember the name. Okay. Then what you can do for fall also. Now, as I said, some of these projects were done a little while ago. And so the designs did not necessarily come from the Creativate library. So, but I just want to share with you. So this is a very large quilt, but And here's what the fabric looked like. I found a leaf design, and now that I go back into the design catalog, I see loads of maple leaf patterns that I could have used instead of this one. But anyway, so then you just pick the colors that are going to match the fabric. And instead of leaving this big open space in the center of my Ohio star block, I can use a machine embroidery in there. So this is something that's really exciting to do. So not only do you have to be, I mean, you can be a quilter and use machine embroidery all the time. And then instead of using a print, guess what? I can put an embroidery in here. And I just want to share one thing with you. When I am doing the quilting around a machine embroidery, I have seen many times where all people will do is do a stitch in the ditch around the outside of the block, and they will leave the background of this with no stitching. And I'm not a fan of that. So I will do my free motion all the way into, you can see there, it goes all the way into the design. And if you wanted a little bit more, you could actually stitch on the veins as well. So don't be afraid to quilt right into and over your embroidery designs, because it can add a lot of texture to your project.
So Elaine, so I
Yes.
think that answered a question that somebody asked, whether or not you are quilting first and then embroidering, or if you are doing the embroidery and then quilting everything.
Okay, yeah. So what happened with this one here is it was so the pieces were embroidered. You have two different choices actually. In this instance here, the blocks were made and then I embroidered in the center of it. So with our design positioning tools or precise positioning tools, it allows me to get things exactly lined up if I've already pieced the block. If I haven't pieced the block and I'm just doing it on fabric, then I'm going to do that when I fussy cut it to put it in. But the quilt was pieced, and then the whole thing was quilted afterwards. It was quilted in free motion on, I believe, on a long arm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then there is and this isn't new to anybody. Again, I did this many, many years ago, but I had bought this towel, and you know, everybody likes to have the kind of coordinating towel in your bathroom. So this one did have a Halloween border on it, but I wanted to add something to it. So I put that motif on it. And, you know, you want to make sure that you're using your topper stabilizers, like your dissolve-aways on top, so that those stitches are not sinking in. So again, there are so many designs in the design library related to Halloween that you could just go crazy. So I have lots of new orange towels that I need to go and put another motif on. Now here is something that's really fun that you can do. So this is a coaster. Again, this design, although we have nice designs in the catalog, I did this many, many years ago before. So, but what it is it's a piece of industrial felt. So it's, you can't really see that in the camera, but it's relatively thick, this felt. And so it makes a really nice coaster. And with our stabilizers, you could use, you could put in a whole piece of this felt into, you know, floating it on top of a hoop as opposed to putting it in, because you would never get that inside an traditional hoop. But then you could put your embroidery on it and then simply cut it apart with a rotary cutter. You could cut circles on it. You could do a lot of different things with it. So coasters on felt is great. And I plan to make some of these and cut them out so that they can fit into the cup holders of my car, because you know how you put your drinks in there and then it gets all messy inside? And I thought this would be great to just put it in, circular design, and pop it out. You could change it by the season if you wanted to, but make coasters out of industrial felt. I know at one of our local fabric stores that it comes in a roll, many, many different colors. So you could make mug rugs, you could do a lot of things, and no finishing the edges, just like that. It's perfect. When I did this originally, I did use a tearaway stabilizer on the back. If I were doing it today, I would use a washaway stabilizer, so then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Just the washaway stabilizer just to hold it in the hoop. All right, and then here's another design. Again, I'm just showing you all the designs that I did not get from the library just to get them over. But again, this is a small little table runner. Now, in this one here, you'll notice that I did not quilt around the image. Now, why did I not quilt this one and I quilted the maple leaf one? Well, if you look at the rest of the design or the rest of the quilting, it's just literally stitched in the ditch. So there's not a lot of quilting. It's a small seasonal project. it didn't make sense to do all of that quilting. So I just left it like that. But this design had openings where you could put crystals in, and we have some of those on, or you can design those as well in that Creativate embroidery software. So just a cute way to dress up the center of a table topper. So if you don't have, nice fabric, or your fabric's too busy, then you can easily put an embroidery design in the center of that. All right. So next up, I have, and again, I went to the got a pre-made item, but this is an apron. So I'm not going to open it up, but it's an apron. And I went into the design catalog and I was looking for an image. And I started off with this image. So I printed it out, because oftentimes if you don't print something out, it doesn't give me a visual as to will that fill up this space. So I very frequently will print it out and use it as a template. I looked at it and it has 4 stars in the top. Yeah, the 4 stars are okay, but they didn't really mean anything to me for Thanksgiving. So I went into the software and I eliminated those stars. Well, that made it even smaller. And I placed it against my apron and I was like, you know what, that's way too small. There was also a circular design, but that was not going to do anything for me. And unlike when we work with the files on a digital cutter, which are basically silhouettes, this kind of a design has a density of stitches in it, which is important to what it looks like. So I thought, you know what, get rid of the stars. I duplicated this and mirrored it. You'll see the design in this. Well, you can see it on the apron. And then I added some words in. And so this was my new design, which is a lot bigger than this. So if you're running into difficulty because the design that you really like isn't big enough, can you mirror it? Can you add some lettering? Can you add some other kind of embellishment to it? And then you get a design that will fill the space. So this was hooped, used a water-soluble stabilizer on it, got my little pumpkins mirrored, and then give thanks in the center. Again, this was all done in the Creativate machine embroidery software, and I picked one of the fonts that was in the software. It's, because there are so many of them, and you can also make your own, but what's important is you're going to visually see what it looks like on the screen. And I went through probably 10 before I found one that I really liked and felt that the script was more appropriate for this kind of a design. Now on the back, and I need to put it in the washing machine. I just literally rinsed it. So there's a little bit of the water-soluble stabilizer on the back. I did use a green thread on the back. It is a little bit on the rough side. I need to wash it first to get all the stabilizer out to see what it's going to be like. And most people would wear an apron over top of their clothes. But if you wanted to prevent any snagging on let's say the wearer is going to have a silk blouse on, then you could always put like a lightweight interfacing on here. We do have a product, I believe the name is Soft and Sheer, could be wrong about that, but you could then just fuse that on so that it's going to make the back of that really smooth and not catch on anything. But it's a great way. You get a nice gift, a hostess gift if you want, and it really takes no time at all. That I don't even remember how long it took, but it did not take very long for it to stitch out. Okay, here is something else that's kind of fun. So this is a rope bowl, okay, with the clothesline that we've seen around. The motif, the sunflower, because sunflower is very indicative of the fall, was a design that I took from the Creativate embroidery software. It's one of the super designs. It did have a stem on it. I chopped the stem off, and then once I had the bottom part of the rope bowl done, then I was able to go in and do the applique right through the bottom of this base. And then once that applique was finished with the embroidery machine, then I was able to complete the sides of it. So with a nice little finish on the edge. So this is very cool, but that gave me, how it goes when you do one thing, then another and another. So that gave me an idea that why can't I take my cording and dye it orange, and I could make some bowls in orange specifically for Halloween. Or I found this, which is a brilliantly orange cord. Now, this is a polyester cord, but you know what? I've used polyester to make these bowls in the past, and not a problem. So you are not restricted to, what this color, but you could dye it, and you can buy it in other colors as well, and then make whatever you want with it. So yes, you can embroider on the bottom of these bowls. Just be careful with it. It can be taxing on your machine. I would do it on the Creative Icon 2. I'm not sure that I would do it on a smaller machine. Just be aware that it does take a lot of, and it depends on the density of the cord that you use as well. Some of the cords are much denser than others are. This one happened to be quite dense. If it's a little bit thinner cord, then you could probably get away on a smaller machine. But the rope bowls are amazing. I love working with that. Okay, so here is another very cool design. And I was recently at a show showcasing everyone what you could do with your embroidery machine and quilting, because so many people think, well, I'm a quilter, I don't need an embroidery machine. So the whole show was how to do this. I had so many people want to buy this sample from me, and I was like, no, you can't buy this. This is mine. But this was the design. So again, this is part of this came from the Creativate network. So, and this is probably 2-3 years ago when it was pretty much, it was new. We have the blog, which will come to your Wi-Fi enabled machine. And this was one of the designs that was sent there. And there was the inspiration to make it into a placemat. So my placemat's a little bit different than what the original was, but this motif is from the super designs in the Creativate embroidery software. So if you go to the super designs, I believe you go down to the Halloween, there's probably 2 or 3 rows of Halloween designs. And this is the bat. Now, all the person did who sent this through the blog was they just made them bigger or smaller, and then just kind of tossed them, in various directions and so on, and created that design. So you could basically go into the embroidery software and make them bigger or smaller, and you could make your own. So if you just wanted a row of those bats, like a border or anything, you could. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit because this is quite interesting. If you look at the stitching, it is kind of like a long and short stitches on there. So it's not the same type of small little fill pattern. So it gives it a lot of dimension on there. But it's really a very cute design. And like I said, you'll find this in the Creativate embroidery software. And then you can put it on anything. I just used some leftover fabric and made it into a placemat. Again, you're going to see, I forgot to mention that when I was zooming in, but you'll see that I quilted right into around the images. Again, this was done in free motion. So the piece was embroidered, and then I free motion quilted that section of it on the domestic machine.
Elaine?
Yes.
Can we go backwards for one moment? Somebody is wondering if you have a recommendation of the best size rope to use for those rope bowls.
Oh, you know what? There are 2 different sizes principal. I think it's 3. So this one that I have here is 3/16, and there is like 5/32. So I think about in that range. So 1/4 inch, maybe 5/16, or maybe that's probably the range that you want to use. But it is very, and sometimes it's hard to tell because this one here is in a package, so you can't really feel it. But some of them are quite dense. They're very, very thick. And while that will give you a bowl, like in this case here, this bowl is very stiff. I actually put water in this when I was getting rid of the stabilizer on the bottom. It actually held water. It didn't even leak out because it was so tightly done. And the stitching is quite close, and it's a very dense cord. So that makes it very firm and very much holds its shape. If you've got something that's a little bit softer or thinner, then it is going to be a little more floppy. So my preference is to go for a little bit firmer and probably no more though than I'd say 5/16 is probably, yeah, the most that I would go. So just slightly over 1/4 of an inch. Okay. All right. And I know that there are lots of craft stores that will sell this cord, but you could get it in the hardware store. So you've got lots of choices to go and find that. Okay, now here, oh yeah, I'm going to share this with you as well. So I was hoping to have one of these done with a fall theme. That did not happen. So you're going to just see my one with flowers on it. Again, this is an item that I purchased at the dollar store, and it technically is a plastic placemat or table mat. Okay, it's plastic. But I thought, well, let's just see if I can embroider that. So I used one of the metal hoops and found a design and I'm not sure if this one came from I think this one came from the vault or from the design catalog online. And I've stitched it out. So this is the front of it. Okay. I did put a water soluble, the dissolve away on the top of it. I used a water soluble on the underside of it because I wanted, because you know what people are going to do. They're going to sit at the table and they're going to peek underneath because they're going to want to see what it looks like. So that's what I did for stabilizer. So this is the front. Now, typically when we're doing machine embroidery, we would use a 40 weight industry standard thread on the top, and then we would use a bobbin weight thread 60 or higher in the bobbin. I chose to put a 40 weight red thread in the bobbin. So this is just one bobbin, one red 40 weight thread in the bobbin. And because of the tensions in the embroidery machine, this is the effect that it gave me. I did put in a yellow bobbin thread when I did the center, but this, actually, no, I did not. That's still the red thread. The back is almost as nice as the front. And the only way that I can tell the difference between the two is the fact that I can see the red thread showing through the very center of that little yellow dot. But this is the back, and the back is just as nice as the front, meaning that you can use your technologies in the machine, in your embroidery machine, that's going to give you some amazing results. You need a pretty good understanding of your stabilizers and the tensions on your machine. I did not change the tension on the machine, but I did change the thread, and it came out absolutely gorgeous on both sides. So I have another one of these table mats. I already have a maple leaf design set and ready to go. I just literally ran out of time to make that happen to share with you. But there you go. You can have a nice little table topper for your table, or it can become a hostess gift as well.
Elaine, I have another question about that.
Yes.
Somebody wondering what size needle you would need to use to embroider on something like that mat with the plasticky finish.
Okay, so that's a good question. This was a top stitch 14 or a 16. So when in doubt, when I'm working with any kind of material that I think is a little bit questionable, like plastic, I always go to a top stitch because it has a very large eye in it, so it helps to reduce the friction. I wasn't sure whether there would be any loose ends of this. You know how there sometimes are on things like that? There wasn't, and it didn't have any thread breakage on it whatsoever, but a top stitch 14 or 16. Okay, here is another hostess gift that you can make. Oops, let me zoom out a little bit on this one. So this is a napkin. I've just folded it nicely. You could put it on the table like so. I bought these at the thrift store because I'm a big fan of buying things at the thrift store because it gives me a good opportunity to experiment with things and see whether I'm going to like them or not. And so this was one of the maple leaf designs. So I have a smaller version of this that I'm going to put onto the next plastic mat. And I chose colors that would go with the yellow in the napkin. For this, I put it into a metal hoop because, again, it's so close to the edge, it would have been very difficult to put that into a traditional hoop. So I used the water soluble Aqua Magic Plus, which is the sticky stabilizer. And no, actually, sorry, I said that wrong. I used the Aqua Magic, which is the water soluble stabilizer, not the sticky one. Put it into the plastic hoop. or into the metal hoop, sorry. And I did get a little bit of pulling along the side, so it might have needed the sticky stabilizer just to help hold it. And then for the underside of it, I put in a yellow 40 weight thread in the bobbin because I wanted it to look somewhat, just in case somebody looked at the back of it, that it didn't just look white. So it has a 40 weight machine embroidery thread in the bobbin of that for the whole thing. So that turned out really nice. I was really quite excited about it. So if I wanted, I could use this as the start. I could put that onto an apron using those colors. I could use those colors on the table mat. And now I can have a whole coordinated set for, as a hostess gift, or I can use it for myself. So it's perfect. Oh, and here we go. So just while we're speaking about double-sided things, that wasn't really double-sided, but this is. So again, this was a placemat that I got at the dollar store. Just again, it's a great place to go and get things to play around with. And I wanted to see how things are going to react in a two-sided environment because I'm not going to take this placemat apart to do the embroidery on it. So I put it into a metal hoop again because it's not going to fit into a traditional hoop and still allow me to have this where it's supposed to go. I picked an open design. You saw on the table mat where that design had a fill pattern in it, and it still came out really nicely. I think this is one of the first ones that I started where I really experimented with the double-sided. And so here is this tree, and then this is the other side. I used the same color of thread in the top and weight in the bobbin. So that was the exact same thread in the top and the bobbin. And to this day, I cannot remember which is the right side. Is that the right side or is that the right side? It's that perfect. So play around with your machine and look at some of those things and make them double-sided because you can do it. And so that way, if one side gets dirty, guess what? I can turn it over before it needs to be laundered. Okay, now here is a couple of Halloween things. We'll just zoom out on this. So I found, that's kind of washed out because it is really a vibrant orange here. So what I've done here was I purchased a tote bag from my local craft store, and I went into the Creativate embroidery software, and this is a word sculpt design. I just took different words related to fall or autumn, filled the pumpkin, and then on the top, this was also supposed to be orange. And I didn't want that to be orange. So I went into the modify of the software, embroidery software, and I did a color change in 2 spots so that the satin stitch around there would be green. That word was green. And now I have this nice design. This here is, again, just one of the fonts in the software. It is actually a glow-in-the-dark thread. I haven't had a chance to test it yet, but it is a glow-in-the-dark thread. And I did have to open the side of it in order to do the embroidery, so I just have to stitch back the side of it. But what a great little trick-or-treat bag that you can, give to your grandchildren. And very simple to create that design using the Word Sculpt tool. The Word Sculpt tool is in the middle level of the software. And I know they just changed the names, and the name escapes me. Amy, I think it's called the Extra. Do you know that for a fact? I think that's what the level is, but it is the middle level. Okay. All right. So anyway, but ready-made items, again, use the software. You can do whatever you like with that. Now I have, let me just see where it is here. Just a sec here. So here is something else that I have wanted to do for eons. You will see tons of this out, in purchase designs and so on. I technically could do this in the edit screen of the icon too, if I wanted to, but this was so easy to do in the software, in the embroidery software. I simply went into the lettering tab and pulled different fonts, created words or wrote words, threw in a couple of super designs. So this one here is an applique in the center. Kind of had a little bit of a heart attack when I did it. I was like, oh my gosh, it's applique. I didn't realize that. So it's kind of small, but it still turned out okay. These ones here have a fill pattern in them, and then just pick the words. So this is now going to have a little border put on it, and it's going to make a nice cushion, or it could end up being a wall hanging with a border on it. I could stretch it onto a piece of canvas. It could become a pocket, but just imagine what you can do with this. Birth announcements, Christmas, family reunions. I mean, there is so much. This, I think I'm going to spend an awful lot of time playing with because I absolutely love how it came out. So it's beautiful. And you get to play with all the fonts as well. Okay, oh, I better hurry up because I'm going to run out of time here. So here, again, just playing with motifs. This was a design that came from the, I believe that came from the design library, and I just added some fonts that came in the software. And again, this is going to make a nice little banner that I can hang on my door. And it's very simple, and it took really no time at all to stitch this out. It was super, super easy. Here is another one that I put together. So this was going to become a table runner, but I think it's going to become a banner instead. So there again is that same font that I used in the thanks. It came out a little bit differently because you see here the E and the N, they matched up, but over here, because of the way that I think it's called kerning on the letters or whatnot, they are lined up, but they just don't come out the same way. And then for the leaves across the top, it's a super design, and I used the Encore tool in a line in order to get that lined up. So no time at all to design that, and then you can just stitch it out. I probably will put some pinwheels or something at the top. This is an Osnaburg fabric, which reminds me of fall, and I'll have a nice little, again, welcome banner to hang up. Okay, and then we have, we have this. So this, again, I got this inspiration from looking at the inspiration in the Creativate tools. There is a tab that's called Inspiration. And what I find is it's so much easier to look at the inspiration on that website because I know that the things that are there, someone has made them in real life, as opposed to some other places where it could be AI generated. So this took a little bit of time to stitch out, but it is absolutely gorgeous. And again, the colors are not really showing up super well on the camera. I have a lot of lights in here, but it's spectacular. And I'm going to put it with a cushion, so it'll have a little bit of a green frame around it. And I may end up putting a little bit of a decorative stitch around. I'm not quite sure, but it's absolutely stunning. And these were designs that were in the design catalog. And I just brought them in, rotated them around, put them together, sent them to the Creative Icon 2 and stitched it out. Super, super easy to do. Again, you could use this as a starting point, and any of those leaves can then become, you know, on your napkin, on your placemats, on your apron, wherever you want to put them. All right, I have two things left to show you. So here is another item that I found in the design catalog. It is a hot mat or a trivet, and it is pieced in the hoop. So this is the one side that is pieced. Then it is quilted, and you can see the quilting lines all the way through to the back there. So it is basically a project in the hoop. I'll show you in a second how it works. And then you would put your bias binding on it to finish it off. How it starts. So I have one here partially done because I keep teaching this in a workshop and I just have not had a chance to finish this one. But you're basically, I have a piece of the Whisper Web here, and then I've got a piece of batting. I've used an insulated batting, and then I'm starting my piecing down here on the bottom. And when it is finished, it looks like this. And all that I need to do now is to trim it. So there's the backing that's been added on. I just need to trim it now and put the binding on. So this is called the Leaf Hot Mat, I think it is, but it is in the catalog, and it's a fabulous, fabulous little project. So if you want to make it in green colors, autumn colors, or however you want to do, but again, it makes a super, super hostess gift. All right, so the last thing that I want to share with you are these witches. So these are from the design catalog, and they do use, or they're kind of big, they use the embellishment attachment, which I'm going to show you in a second on the machine. So here it is. So this is an applique. This is all embroidery, machine embroidery. And then this part here, which to me is the best part because I just love the texture. This is actually, oh, and the flowers on the hat are done with ribbon. Okay. And here is the second one. So they're basically the same, except for the hair, the style of hair. And then here we go. We have another one as well. These are stunning. So these are going to be cut apart and put together to make a table runner. And what I'm going to do, I'll just leave those guys there. I'm just going to show you what this looks like on the Creative Icon 2. So we're just going to flip this around here so that you can see. All right, so I have this one started, ready to go. And we're just going to select start. So what happens is you can see that green ribbon on this little holder here. So I've already done the orange part of the pumpkin, and now we're just finishing up the top of the pumpkin. So this is an extra attachment that you would buy for the larger body machines like the Creative Icon. And it is so much fun to work with. And what I love about it is just that texture. So, and you can use, gosh, I forget what the number of, I think 1/8 to something like 7/8 inch ribbon. And so it's absolutely fun to play around with. But I love the witches. I just think they're so stunning. And we have about 300 stitches left to go. And it's very cool. It's very mesmerizing that you want to sit there and you want to watch it all day, which I could, but I have a lot of work that needs to be done before that happens. So what happens is, yes?
Sorry, can you mention, somebody's wanting to know where this design came from? You found this one in the design catalog?
Yes, so this one came from the design catalog. And what they have done is all of the designs with ribbon in the design catalog are free. So if you don't have a membership, but you have this attachment, then you don't need to have a membership to go in and use them. You can literally pull the designs out. And this particular device will use yarn and also beads on a string. So in this instance here, I'm using ribbon. I have not yet figured out, and not sure if it is possible to transfer or translate a ribbon design into a yarn design, but I'm sure there's a way to do it, and I just have to figure that out. So, but yes, it came from the design catalog.
I just put a link to that design in the chat for everyone.
Okay, perfect. Now, the other thing I just want to mention to people is that if you are super creative and you're very good at drawing, you can create anything, a design in the Creativate embroidery software that will also that you can stitch out. So you're not restricted to using designs that are in that design catalog, but you are able to create your own designs as well, which is super, super cool. So anything is up for grabs. And what I have found is that there are a lot of, I guess line art drawing is probably the best way to say, to call them. And those can be brought into the software and they can be created as a design. All right, we're just going to pull that off so you can have a peek at it. Cut that. All right. Careful we don't drop that on the ground. That would be a bad thing.
Elaine, somebody is wondering what happens if you run out of ribbon during the stitch out?
All right, that is a very good question. So before you start any of a ribbon design, you absolutely must check that you have enough bobbin thread, because you do not want to run out of bobbin thread while you are stitching. If you do, you can go back and recover, but it is not fun. So you want to make sure. And in the embroidery design, it will tell you. So if I were to look this design up in the design catalog, it would tell me that for color, the orange of the pumpkin, I need X number of inches. And then for the green, I need X number of inches. So I would have to wind, let me just get this here. So there is, let me just pull this out and come over here. So you can see here that I took the measurement from the design, and I have this much ribbon left. So you could take the whole, what do you call it? The skein of ribbon and put it on if you wanted, or cut. And I always just cut a little bit extra because you need a little bit at the beginning and the end. So you do not want to run out. And so you want to just double check that before you go. All right, now let's have a look at the design. So here we go. There is the pumpkin. And I just have to cut the tail off of the pumpkin up here with my scissors. And the more curves there are, the more that this will curl up. But still, the design is absolutely beautiful. And, you know, now I can turn that into a pillow. I can make a little wall hanging out of it. I can add more embellishments around it if I want. I mean, honestly, I can do whatever. So for me, you know, there's just so many tools and places that we can use to find inspiration. And whether it's on the Creativate website in the catalog, or whether it is in the software itself, something that you dream up, everything is possible. Amy, do we have any more questions before we go today?
I don't see any more questions. I think you covered everything.
Okay, perfect. Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining me today. I know some of you may have got, said, well, not sure quite what to expect, but I really appreciate that you coming. And hopefully you have learned something about at least where to go and get some inspiration, how to use some of the tools. And like I said, the fabulous cutting tool, whether you're cutting paper, whether you're cutting fabric. There are so many embroidery techniques that you'll find in the Creativate embroidery software that will translate to the Creative Icon or some of your other Wi-Fi enabled machines. But if you have access to these tools, please, please go out and use them, because they just are fabulous. So once again, thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.